The little girl's bloody hand grabbed his coat. 10 years old, shaking like a leaf in a blizzard, but her voice didn't waver. "Please, mister. He's gonna kill her tonight. Mama can't run no more." Behind her, through the howling snow, Jedediah Callahan saw the torches coming. 6 men. Maybe 7. And somewhere in that frozen darkness, a woman was dying. He'd sworn never to care again. Sworn it on his wife's grave. But some promises God don't let you keep. If this story touches your heart, subscribe and follow until the end. Comment your city below. I want to see how far this journey travels. The knock came at midnight. 3 sharp raps against frozen wood. The kind of sound that splits through silence like a rifle crack. The kind that says somebody's life is hanging by a thread, and that thread is fraying fast. Jedediah Callahan sat up from his chair by the fire. His hand found the rifle before his mind caught up. 4 years alone had taught him that. 4 years of nobody coming to this cabin. 4 years of preferring it that way. He crossed to the door. Waited. The knock came again. Weaker this time. "Please." A child's voice. Thin. Desperate. "Please, somebody." Jed pulled the door open. A girl stood there. 10 years old, maybe 11. Her dress was torn. Blood ran down her chin from a split lip. Her bare feet were blue against the snow. And in her arms, wrapped in what used to be a blanket, something small cried like a dying kitten. Behind her, through the swirling white, Jed saw them. Torches. 6 of them. Bobbing through the darkness like angry fireflies. Men's voices carryings on the wind. Hunting voices. The girl looked up at him. Her eyes were too old for her bones. Too knowing. The kind of eyes children get when they've seen things no child should see. "Please, mister." Her voice cracked. "He's gonna kill her tonight. Mama can't run no more." Jed's heart stopped. "Where's your mama?" "Back there." The girl pointed toward the torches. "She fell. Told me to run. Told me to find help." Her small body shook. "I didn't want to leave her, but she made me promise. She made me promise to save Grace." The bundle in her arms stirred. A baby. Couldn't be more than 8 months old. "Please." Tears froze on the girl's cheeks. "They're gonna hurt her. They're gonna hurt her bad." Behind her, the torches drew closer. The voices grew louder. And Jedediah Callahan stood in that doorway with ice forming on his beard, knowing that by dawn he'd have to choose. The law of men, or the law of what's right. In Montana territory, those two things weren't always the same. Jed pulled the girl inside, shut the door, barred it. "What's your name?" "Lucy." She was shaking so hard her teeth chattered. "Lucy Whitmore. This here's my sister Grace." "Who's coming, Lucy? Who's got those torches?" "My pa." The word came out like poison. "And his friends. Deputy Crane and his men." Deputy. That word landed heavy in Jed's chest. "Your pa's a lawman." "He's got a badge." Lucy's jaw tightened. "Don't make him law, just makes him mean with permission." Jed knelt down. Even kneeling, he towered over her. Folks called him the Mountain for a reason. 6'4", shoulders like an ox, hands that could crush stone. But his voice came out gentle. "Lucy, I need you to tell me everything. Fast. Before they get here." Lucy swallowed hard. Looked at her sister, then at him. "Mama came out here as a mail-order bride. 3 years ago. Pa seemed kind in his letters. Said he wanted a family. Said he'd take care of us. But he didn't. No, sir." Lucy's voice went flat. "First night he hit her for cooking supper wrong. Second night he hit her for breathing too loud. By the end of the first week, Mama knew she'd made the worst mistake of her life. Why didn't she leave? Leave to where? Lucy looked at him like he'd asked the stupidest question in the world. She got no money, no family, no friends. The law says she's his property. The preacher says she made a vow before God. The whole town says she should be grateful he took her in. Jed's hands clenched into fists. What happened tonight? Mama tried to run. She's been planning for months, saving pennies, hiding bread. Tonight Pa came home drunk and mean, meaner than usual. He had a hot iron from the fireplace. Said he was going to teach her a lesson she'd never forget. Lucy's voice broke. So she grabbed us and ran. But the snow's deep. Grace is sick. Mama's leg is hurt from last time he pushed her down the stairs. We couldn't go fast enough. And now he's coming. Yes, sir. Lucy gripped his arm. Her little fingers dug in hard. But you're big. You're real big. Maybe you can stop him. Maybe you can save her. Jed looked at this child. This brave, broken child who'd walked through a blizzard barefoot to save her mother. Who'd kept her baby sister alive against all odds. Who'd found the one cabin in 50 miles that might have a man in it willing to help. Or unwilling. He should send her away. Should tell her this wasn't his fight. He'd learned that lesson hard. Getting involved with other people's troubles only led to graves. Clara's grave. Their baby's grave. 2 wooden crosses on a hillside that he visited every Sunday because it was all he had left. Some things a man couldn't survive twice. Mr. Lucy's voice trembled. Please, she's all I got. Outside, the torches were closer now, 100 yards, maybe less. Jed could hear them calling. Eleanor, you get out here right now. Woman, you're making this worse on yourself. Ain't no use running, you stupid. The rest was carried off by wind, but Jed heard enough. He looked at Clara's shawl hanging by the door, the one she'd been wearing when she died, the one he couldn't bring himself to put away because it still smelled like her. Some promises God don't let you keep. Jed stood up, grabbed his rifle, grabbed his coat. Stay here, he told Lucy. Bar the door behind me. Don't open it for nobody but me. But I'm going to get your mama. Lucy's eyes went wide. You'd do that? You don't even know us. I know enough. Jed opened the door. The cold hit him like a fist. I know she's out there alone. I know she's hurt. I know she's got a man coming to kill her. He stepped into the blizzard. That's enough. The snow was 3 feet deep in places. Jed pushed through it like a ship through angry seas. His lungs burned from the cold. His beard froze solid, but he kept moving. The torches spread out now, searching, hunting. Jed moved quiet, stayed low. 4 years of solitude had made him part of this mountain. He knew every tree, every rock, every shadow. He found her in a gully half buried in snow. Eleanor Whitmore, 32 years old, dressed in nothing but a nightgown and a torn coat. Her leg was bent wrong. Her face was a map of bruises. But she was alive. Please. She saw him coming and tried to crawl away. Please don't hurt me. I'll go back. I'll be good. Ma'am. Jed kept his voice soft. I ain't with them. She stopped. Looked at him. Really looked. Who are you? Name's Jedediah Callahan. Your daughter Lucy found my cabin. She's there now with the baby. They're safe. Eleanor's whole body shuddered with relief. Lucy's alive, Grace is alive. Yes, ma'am. And I'm gonna get you to them, but we gotta move, now. I can't. Eleanor gestured at her leg. It's broken, from when it won't hold weight. Jed didn't hesitate. He scooped her up like she weighed nothing, which wasn't far from the truth. She was thin as a rail, starved down to bone and desperation. Then I'll carry you. Eleanor stared at him. Why would you do this? You don't know me. You don't know what trouble this will bring you. I know a woman's dying in the snow while her husband hunts her like an animal. Jed started walking, fast. That's enough to know. He's a deputy. He's got the law on his side. Law ain't always justice, ma'am. He'll kill you. He can try. They were halfway to the cabin when the shout came. There, I see her. Jed turned. A torch was coming fast. One man running through the snow. Big man. Mean face. Badge glinting on his coat. Victor Crane. Put her down, stranger. Crane's voice carried across the white. That's my wife you're holding. My property. Jed kept walking. I said put her down. And I said no. Jed didn't slow. She's hurt. She needs a doctor. She ain't going nowhere with you tonight. Who the hell do you think you are? Jed stopped, turned. Even in the darkness, even through the blowing snow, Victor Crane could see exactly who he was dealing with. A giant of a man. Shoulders like a mountain, eyes like winter itself. I'm the man standing between you and her. Jed's voice went cold. That's all you need to know. Crane laughed, nervous, trying to cover it with bravado. You know who I am. I'm Deputy Victor Crane. I got the law. I got 5 men with rifles. You're 1 man in a snowstorm. Seems like enough. Listen here, old man. I ain't old. Jed shifted Eleanor in his arms. She'd gone quiet watching. I'm 44, and I've survived things that would have killed you 10 times over. So here's what's gonna happen. I'm taking this woman into my cabin. I'm sending for a doctor. And in the morning we're gonna figure out what's what. Like hell you are. If you're smart, you'll go home. Sober up. Think about what kind of man you want to be. Crane's face twisted with rage. She's my wife. The law says. The law says a lot of things. Jed turned and started walking again. Don't make all of them right. You'll regret this, stranger. You'll regret the day you crossed Victor Crane. Jed didn't look back. Already got a list of regrets, deputy. You ain't even in the top 10. He kept walking. The torches didn't follow. Not yet. They were regrouping, planning, waiting for daylight. Jed knew what that meant. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. The cabin was warm. Lucy had kept the fire going. Good girl. Brave girl. Jed laid Eleanor on the bed. His bed. The one he'd built for Clara. The one he'd slept in alone for 4 years. Mama! Lucy rushed over. Grace was still in her arms, crying weakly. Mama, you're alive? Baby? Eleanor reached up, touched her daughter's face. My brave baby. You did it. You found help. He saved you, Mama. The big man saved you. Eleanor looked at Jed. Her eyes were wet. I don't know how to thank you. Don't need thanks. Jed was already moving, checking the windows, the door, the rifle. Need you to tell me everything. How many men does your husband have? What's their temperament? How long before they come back? Eleanor tried to sit up, winced, fell back. He's got 5 regular drinking buddies, all mean, all armed. They do whatever Victor says because Victor's cousin is the sheriff. Nobody crosses the Crane family in Silver Fork. Silver Fork, that the town, 20 miles south, small, maybe 300 people. Victor's been deputy for 5 years. Before that, she hesitated. Before that, he was just a rancher. A charming rancher who wrote beautiful letters to lonely women back east. Mail-order bride, Jed said. I was a school teacher in Boston. My parents died. I had nothing. His letters seemed so kind, so full of promise. Eleanor laughed bitterly. I thought I was starting a new life. Didn't know I was signing up for hell. Lucy climbed onto the bed, careful not to jostle her mother's broken leg. Pa's mean as a snake, mister. He hits Mama every day. He says it's because she's stupid, because she can't do nothing right. But Mama ain't stupid. Mama's the smartest person I know. I know she is. Jed looked at Eleanor. You kept yourself alive for 3 years. Kept your children alive. That takes smarts most people ain't got. Eleanor's lip trembled. I should have run sooner, should have found a way. You're here now. That's what matters. Jed pulled a chair up beside the bed, sat down heavy. The adrenaline was fading, and weariness crept in. He was 44 years old. He'd buried a wife and child. He'd spent 4 years convinced he'd never feel anything again. Now, in one night, everything had changed. What happens in the morning? Eleanor asked. When he comes back with the law, we'll face it. He'll say I belong to him, and legally he's right. A wife is her husband's property. I signed the marriage certificate. I said the vows. Vows don't include getting beat to death. The law doesn't see it that way. Jed looked at her for a long moment. Then we'll have to change what the law sees. Morning came gray and cold. Jed hadn't slept. He'd spent the night preparing, boarding windows, setting traps in the snow, loading every weapon he owned. Eleanor slept fitfully, fever setting in from her injuries. Lucy stayed at her side, holding Grace, watching her mother like a hawk. At 8 o'clock, the riders came. Jed saw them from the window. 7 men on horseback. Victor Crane in front, badge polished bright. Behind him, a man in black robes, a preacher, and another man with a paper in his hand. They stopped at the edge of Jed's property. Callahan. Victor's voice carried across the snow. We've got legal papers, a court order. Send out my wife and children or we're coming in to get them. Jed stepped onto the porch, rifle in hand, not pointing at anyone, just present. Morning, deputy. Don't you morning me, you wife-stealing son of a... Watch your language. Jed's voice went hard. There's children in this house. My children in my house with my wife. Victor's horse danced beneath him, sensing his rage. You've got 1 minute to send them out, or I swear to God. God ain't got nothing to do with this. Jed leaned against the porch post, casual, immovable. And neither does your paper. That woman's got a broken leg. Baby's got a fever. They ain't going nowhere till a doctor sees them. I don't care if they're dying. They're mine. Property don't have broken bones. Deputy, people do. The preacher rode forward. Reverend Isaiah Blackwood. Jed recognized the type. All righteousness and no mercy. Mr. Callahan, the Reverend said smoothly, perhaps we can discuss this like civilized men. The sanctity of marriage is a sacred bond. Whatever difficulties may exist between husband and wife, it's not our place to interfere. I ain't interfering with marriage, Reverend. I'm interfering with murder. Murder. The Reverend looked shocked. Well-practiced shock. Those are serious accusations. She's got 17 injuries I can count without even looking close. 3 broken ribs, a fractured wrist never set right, burns from hot irons. That sound like a loving husband to you? The men behind Victor shifted uncomfortably. Some of them maybe had consciences. Most didn't. Lies, Victor spat. She's clumsy, falls a lot. I've been nothing but patient with her. Then you won't mind waiting while Doc Morrison comes out to examine her. If she's just clumsy, his report will clear you. If she ain't... Jed shrugged. Well, then we'll see what a federal marshal has to say about it. That word landed like a bomb. Federal. Victor's face went white. You wouldn't. Already sent a rider this morning. Should reach Cheyenne by nightfall. Marshal should be here in 3 days. Jed smiled. No warmth in it. Unless you've got something to hide that shouldn't bother you none. Victor's hand twitched toward his gun. I wouldn't, Jed said quietly. The other men looked at each other, at Victor, at the giant on the porch with the rifle and the cold eyes. Nobody moved. This ain't over, Victor said finally. I've got the law. I've got papers. I've got rights. You've got 3 days to figure out if your rights are worth dying for. Jed went back inside, closed the door, barred it. Eleanor was awake, watching. You really send for a federal marshal? No. Jed set his rifle down. But they don't know that. He'll find out you're bluffing. By then I'll have figured out something else. Why are you doing this? Eleanor's voice broke. You don't know us. You've got no stake in this fight. Why would you risk everything for strangers? Jed didn't answer for a long moment. Then he reached into his shirt, pulled out a gold ring on a leather cord. Clara's wedding ring. 4 years ago, I had a wife. Most beautiful woman I ever knew. Smart, kind, brave. What happened to her? She died in childbirth. The baby died too. Little girl. Never even got to hold her. Eleanor's hand went to her mouth. The doctor came too late. The midwife didn't know what she was doing. I sat there watching my whole world slip away, and there wasn't nothing I could do to stop it. Jed looked at her. His eyes were wet. I swore that night I'd never care about anything again. Thought if I didn't care I couldn't get hurt. Worked pretty good for 4 years. And now? Now your daughter showed up at my door with blood on her face and a baby in her arms asking me to save her mama. And I realized something. What? Not caring ain't the same as not hurting. It's just a different kind of pain. He tucked the ring back into his shirt. Maybe it's time I tried a different way. Lucy appeared in the doorway, Grace in her arms. Mr. Jed, the baby's hungry, and Mama needs water, and I think... She stopped, looked at her mother, at Jed, at the tears on both their faces. Are you two okay? Jed wiped his eyes, stood up. We're okay, little one, just having a grown-up talk. About what? Jed looked at Eleanor. Eleanor looked at him. Something passed between them. Not romance, not yet, but understanding, recognition. Two broken people who'd found each other in a storm. About family, Jed said finally. About what it means. The day passed slow. Jed tended to Eleanor's wounds as best he could, splinted her leg with boards and rope, cleaned the cuts, applied salve to the burns. She flinched at every touch, and he realized she wasn't just afraid of the pain. She was afraid of him. I ain't gonna hurt you, he said quietly. I know. But she didn't relax. It's just... Victor was gentle too, in the beginning. Before we got married, he was the kindest man I'd ever met. Then the door closed, and he became someone else. Some men are two people, one for the public, one for the private. How do I know you're not like that? Jed set down the bandage, sat back. You don't, not yet. Trust takes time. I understand that. Eleanor studied him. My first husband hit me on our wedding night. Said he wanted to make sure I understood who was in charge. 3 years later, I still flinch when any man raises his hand, even if he's just reaching for a cup. Then I'll keep my hands low. You'd do that. I'd do whatever it takes to make you feel safe, you and your girls. Lucy piped up from across the room. He's different, Mama. I can tell. How can you tell, baby? Because he looks at us like we're people. Pa never did. Pa looked at us like we was furniture. Things he owned, things he could break if he wanted. Out of the mouths of babes. Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry, baby. I'm so sorry I didn't get you out sooner. It's okay, Mama. We're out now. Lucy came over, sat on the bed, leaned against her mother. And the big man's gonna protect us. Right, Mr. Jed? Jed nodded. Right. Night fell. The torches didn't come back, but Jed knew they were out there, watching, waiting. He sat by the fire rifle across his knees, listening to the wind howl outside. Behind him, Eleanor slept. Lucy slept. Grace slept. 3 lives that hadn't existed in his world 24 hours ago. Now they were everything. Around midnight, he heard it. Scraping. At the window. Jed was on his feet in an instant, rifle up. A face appeared in the glass. Old. Weathered. Familiar. Doc Samuel Morrison. Jed let him in. How'd you know to come? Beatrice sent word, said there was trouble at your place. The old doctor set down his bag. Didn't say what kind. Woman and 2 children, deputy's wife. She ran and he's hunting her. Doc's face went grim. Victor Crane. You know him. I've been patching up his wife for 2 years, telling myself it wasn't my business, lying to myself because the truth was too ugly. Doc moved toward the bedroom. Show me. Jed showed him. For 20 minutes, Doc examined Eleanor in silence. Checked her bones, her bruises, her burns, made notes in a small leather journal. When he came out, his face was carved from stone. 17 distinct injuries. Broken ribs, 3 of them healing poorly. Fractured wrist never properly set. Burns consistent with hot iron contact. Malnutrition. Anemia. She's been dying for 3 years, Jed. Dying slow. Can you testify to that? I can do more than that. Doc pulled out his journal. I've got 2 years of notes. Every time I patched her up, I wrote it down. Dates, injuries. What she told me happened, and what I knew actually happened. Why didn't you say something? Doc's eyes went wet. 20 years ago, I had a daughter, Alice. Beautiful girl. Married a man I didn't trust. I kept my mouth shut because it wasn't my place to interfere. What happened? He killed her. Beat her to death one night when he was drunk. By the time I got there, she was gone. Doc wiped his eyes. I swore I'd never let that happen again, but swearing and doing are different things. I've been a coward, Jed, hiding behind propriety and law while women suffered. But you came tonight. When Beatrice told me what was happening, something broke in me. Or fixed itself, I'm not sure which. Doc gripped his journal. I'll testify. I'll tell the truth. Whatever happens, I'll speak. It might cost you everything. I've already lost everything that matters. My daughter, my self-respect, my soul. Doc looked toward the bedroom where Eleanor slept. Maybe if I save this one, I can start getting some of it back. Jed gripped the old man's shoulder. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Victor's not gonna stop. He's got the sheriff in his pocket. He's got the preacher. He's got half the town too scared to speak. Then we'll need the other half. You think they'll stand up? Jed thought about it. About people. About fear. About the moment when shame becomes louder than terror. I think everyone's got a line. A moment when they can't pretend anymore. We just have to find it. Doc nodded, packed up his bag. I'll be back at dawn, with supplies, with whatever help I can find. Be careful. Victor's got men watching the roads. I know these mountains better than they do. Been riding them for 40 years. Doc paused at the door. You're a good man, Jed Callahan. Whatever happens, remember that. He disappeared into the night. Jed barred the door behind him. When he turned, Lucy was standing there, watching. Is Mama gonna be okay? Doc says she needs rest, needs food, needs time. But is she gonna be okay? Jed knelt down, looked the girl in the eye. I don't know, Lucy. I wish I could promise you everything's gonna be fine, but I don't lie to children. What I can tell you is this, I'm gonna fight for her. Fight for you. Fight for Grace. Whatever comes through that door, it's gonna have to go through me first. Lucy nodded, solemn. That's enough. Is it? It's more than anyone's ever done for us. She went back to bed, curled up beside her mother, held her baby sister close. Jed watched them for a moment. 3 lives, 3 souls, 3 reasons to keep breathing. Then he went back to the window, back to watching, back to waiting. The storm was coming, and he would be ready. 3 hours before dawn, the first shot rang out. Not at the cabin, somewhere distant, east toward town. Then another shot, and another. Jed tensed at the window. What's happening? Eleanor's voice groggy with fever and pain. Don't know yet. Stay down. More shots, then shouting, then silence, long silence. Then through the darkness, a single rider appeared, moving fast, too fast for caution. Jed raised his rifle, waited. The rider stopped at the property line, threw something into the snow, then turned and vanished back into the night. Jed waited 10 minutes before going out to look. It was a bag, burlap, heavy, inside a note and a ledger. The note read, "He's coming at dawn. 30 men. Not just his friends. He's paying the mine workers. Says it's a posse. Says you're a kidnapper. But this ledger proves what he really is. 2 years of payroll records. He's been stealing county funds. $300-400. Use it." A friend. Jed opened the ledger, flipped through the pages. Numbers, dates, signatures. Victor Crane had been embezzling from the county for 2 years, skimming off road repairs, school funds, medical supplies, lining his own pockets while the town starved. This wasn't just evidence of abuse. This was evidence of federal crimes. Jed looked toward the eastern horizon, toward dawn, toward what was coming. 30 men. He was one man with a rifle, and 3 people who couldn't fight. But he had something Victor Crane didn't: the truth. And sometimes that was enough. Sometimes that was everything. He went back inside, barred the door, sat down beside Eleanor's bed. "What is it?" she whispered. "Trouble." He showed her the ledger, but also hope. "I don't understand." "Your husband's been stealing. From the county. From the people. If we can get this to the right hands." "Whose hands?" "Victor owns the sheriff, the judge, everyone." "Not everyone." Jed thought about Doc Morrison, about whoever had thrown this bag, about the people in town who'd watched and stayed silent, but maybe, just maybe, were ready to speak. There's always someone who hasn't given up, always someone still fighting. How do you know? Because you're still fighting. He touched her hand, gentle, brief. After 3 years of hell, you grabbed your children and ran into a blizzard. That's not giving up. That's war. Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. "I was so scared." Brave people are always scared. That's what makes them brave. Dawn crept closer. The sky went from black to gray to pale gold. And somewhere to the east, 30 men on horseback started riding toward a cabin in the mountains. Toward a giant rancher with nothing left to lose. Toward a woman with everything to fight for. Toward children who deserved better than the world had given them. The storm was coming, but so was the light. The first light of dawn had barely touched the mountaintops when Lucy's voice cut through the silence. "Mr. Jed, they're coming." Jed was already at the window. He'd been watching for an hour, waiting, counting the minutes like a man counts his last breaths. Now he saw them. A line of riders emerging from the tree line. 10, 20. More behind them, still coming. "How many?" Eleanor asked from the bed. She'd tried to sit up twice already. Both times her leg had screamed her back down. 30, maybe more. Dear God. God ain't got nothing to do with this. Jed checked his rifle, checked his pistol, checked the boards on the windows. "But we ain't dead yet." Lucy stood beside him, her small face pressed against the cold glass. She wasn't crying, hadn't cried since that first night. Something in this child had gone hard and sharp like a blade forged in fire. Is Pa with them? Front and center, riding like he owns the world. He thinks he does. Lucy's voice was flat. He thinks he owns everything. Mama, me, Grace, the whole town. Some men think owning things makes them big. Usually means they're small inside. The riders stopped at the property line. Jed counted them now. 34 men. Some on horses, some on foot, most of them carrying rifles. A few with torches even though it was daylight. The torches weren't for seeing. They were for burning. Victor Crane rode forward. His badge caught the morning sun flashing like a warning. "Callahan." Jed didn't move from the window. "I've got a legal posse here. 34 men deputized by Sheriff Thomas Crane. You're harboring a fugitive and 2 kidnapped children. Come out now or we're coming in. Eleanor grabbed Jed's arm. Her grip was weak, but her eyes were fierce. Don't go out there, he'll kill you. He'll try. Please, you've done enough, more than enough. Just let me go back. I'll tell them I came here against my will. I'll say you didn't know. You'd go back to that if it keeps you alive, if it keeps my children safe. Jed looked at her. This woman who'd been beaten for 3 years, starved, burned, broken, and still her first thought was protecting others. You ain't going nowhere. He pulled the ledger from his coat. And neither is he. Not after everybody sees this. What are you going to do? Something stupid, probably. Jed almost smiled. Been doing stupid things my whole life. Might as well keep the streak going. He walked to the door, unbarred it, stepped out onto the porch. 34 rifles swung toward him. Morning, gentlemen. Jed's voice carried easy across the snow. Nice day for a ride. Victor's face twisted. You think this is funny? I think 34 men coming to drag one sick woman out of bed is about the saddest thing I've seen in 44 years. And I've seen some sad things. She's my wife. She's a human being. There's a difference, though I don't expect you to understand it. One of the men in the posse shifted. Jed recognized him. Tom Harker, the blacksmith from Silver Fork. Good man, mostly. Quiet. The kind who kept his head down and his opinions to himself. Jed. Tom's voice was uncertain. We don't want no trouble. Just let the woman go, and this all ends peaceful. Does it? Jed held up the ledger. You all know what this is. Silence. This here's 2 years of county payroll records. Shows every penny that came into Silver Fork and every penny that went out. He opened it, flipped through the pages. Funny thing, though, the numbers don't add up. $3,400 missing. Road repairs that never happened. School supplies that never arrived. Medicine for the sick that disappeared into thin air. The men looked at each other, confused, uncertain. Where'd all that money go, you think? Jed looked directly at Victor. Deputy Crane, you got any ideas? Victor's face went white, then red, then a color Jed had never seen on a living man. That's lies. That's forgery. That's your signature. Jed held up a page. Right there, and there, and there. 37 times by my count. You've been stealing from these men's families for 2 years. Their children went without books so you could buy whiskey. Their wives went without medicine so you could play cards in Cheyenne. The posse stirred. Men looking at Victor now with different eyes. He's lying. Victor's voice cracked. He's trying to distract you. He's got my wife in there, my children, and he's... Your wife's got 17 injuries. Jed's voice cut through. Broken ribs, broken wrist, burns from hot irons. Doc Morrison examined her last night. He's got records going back 2 years. Every time you beat her, he wrote it down. Doc's a drunk, Doc's a witness. And so's Beatrice Hollis. And so's half the town that watched you hit your own daughter on the church steps 3 days ago. A murmur ran through the posse. Some of these men had been there, had seen it, had told themselves it wasn't their business. Tom. Jed looked at the blacksmith. You've got a daughter. Sarah, right? 9 years old. Tom nodded slowly. If a man hit Sarah hard enough to split her lip, what would you do? Tom didn't answer. Didn't have to. His hand moved away from his rifle. Pete? Jed turned to another man. Your wife Mary had trouble with her first husband. Came to you with bruises she said were from falling. You knew better. That's why you married her, to give her something better. Pete's jaw tightened. Jim, your mother died from a fall down the stairs. At least that's what your father told people. But you knew the truth, didn't you? You were 12 years old, hiding in the closet, listening to her scream. Jim's rifle lowered. Every one of you has got a mother, a wife, a daughter, a sister. Every one of you knows what it looks like when a woman's being hurt. You've seen the signs. You've told yourselves it wasn't your place to interfere. Jed stepped forward. One step, then another. Well, I'm telling you now, it is your place. It's everybody's place. Because when we look away, we become part of it. When we stay silent, we say, it's okay. That's enough. Victor drew his pistol. I'm the law here. You're a thief and a wife-beater. Jed didn't flinch. And you're about to be a murderer too if you pull that trigger. In front of 34 witnesses who are starting to remember they've got consciences. Victor's hand shook. The pistol wavered. Put it down, Victor. Sheriff Thomas Crane rode forward. Victor's cousin. The man who'd given him the badge. Who'd covered up his crimes for years. Put it down. This ain't the way. He's lying, Tom. I've seen the ledger. The sheriff's voice was tired, old. Beatrice showed me last night. She's been keeping copies for 2 years, waiting for someone to listen. Victor's face crumpled. You're my family. You're supposed to protect me. I've been protecting you too long. The sheriff dismounted, walked toward his cousin. Should have stopped you years ago, when Martha first came to me with bruises, when she begged me to help her. She's my wife. She's a woman, Victor, a person, not a punching bag. The sheriff held out his hand. Give me the gun. Give me the badge. This is over. For a long moment, nobody breathed. Then Victor raised the pistol, not at Jed, not at the sheriff, at his own head. If I can't have them, nobody will. His voice cracked. If I can't have my family, what's the point? What's the goddamn point? Victor, don't. Tell Eleanor I loved her. Tell her I'm sorry. Tell her. The shot rang out, but not from Victor's gun. Jed had moved faster than anyone could follow. His rifle butt caught Victor's wrist, sent the pistol spinning into the snow. A second later, Victor was on the ground, Jed's boot on his chest. You don't get to die. Jed's voice was ice. You don't get that easy way out. You're gonna live. You're gonna face trial. You're gonna look your wife and daughters in the eye while they tell the world what you did to them. Victor sobbed, actually sobbed. This man who'd terrorized his family for 3 years, reduced to tears in the snow. Please, please, just let me die. No. Jed looked up at the posse, at the sheriff, at the 34 men who'd come to drag a woman back to hell. Anybody else want to fight for this man? Anybody else think he's worth protecting? Silence. One by one, the men lowered their rifles. Some turned their horses and rode away. Others just stood there ashamed looking at their boots. Tom Harker stepped forward. What do you need, Jed? I need men to guard the cabin while I take the women to safety. I need someone to ride to Cheyenne for a federal marshal. I need people to stand up and say what they've seen. I'll guard the cabin. Tom set his jaw. My Sarah's in there somewhere. In every little girl who's ever been hit by her father. I should have spoken up years ago. I didn't. But I'm speaking now. I'll ride to Cheyenne. Pete mounted his horse. Mary's been wanting me to do something that matters. Reckon this qualifies. One by one, men stepped forward. Not all of them, not even most. But enough. The sheriff handcuffed his own cousin, pulled him to his feet. I'm sorry, Jed. I should have done this years ago. You're doing it now. That's what matters. Will she forgive me, Eleanor? That's not for me to say. Jed looked toward the cabin where 3 faces watched from the window. Forgiveness is her choice. All you can do is earn it. The sheriff nodded, loaded Victor onto a horse, led him away. The posse dispersed, some to guard the roads, some to spread the word, some just to go home and think about who they wanted to be. Jed stood alone in the snow watching them go. Then he walked back inside. Eleanor was crying. Lucy was crying. Even little Grace was crying, though she didn't know why. Is it over? Eleanor whispered. The first part. Jed sat down beside her bed. There's more coming. Trial, testimony, people asking questions you don't want to answer. But Victor? Victor's going to jail, for a long time, maybe forever. Eleanor's hand found his, gripped it tight. Thank you. I don't know why you did this. I don't know what we did to deserve. You didn't have to do anything. Jed's voice was rough. Deserving's got nothing to do with it. You needed help. I was there, that's all. That's not all. That's everything. Lucy climbed onto the bed, careful of her mother's leg, held up her small hand. Can I say something? Course you can, Jed said. I prayed for you, that night in the snow, when Mama told me to run and find help. I prayed to God to send someone big enough to stop Pa, someone strong enough to protect us. She looked at Jed with those old knowing eyes. God sent you, and Jed didn't know what to say to that. Didn't know if he believed in a God who answered prayers. Didn't know if he believed in anything anymore. But looking at this child, this brave broken child who'd walked through a blizzard barefoot to save her family, he thought maybe he could start believing again. I ain't much of an answer to prayers, he said finally. You're the best answer I ever got. The afternoon passed slow. Doc Morrison came back with supplies, bandages, medicine, food. He'd brought Beatrice Hollis with him, the general store owner who'd been keeping records of Victor's crimes for 2 years. Mrs. Whitmore. Beatrice stood at the foot of the bed, hands clasped face tight with something that might have been guilt. I owe you an apology. Eleanor looked at her, wary. This woman had watched her suffer for 3 years, had sold her flour and salt while her face was black with bruises, had said nothing. Why now? Because I was a coward. Beatrice's voice cracked. I told myself it wasn't my place. Told myself the law would handle it. Told myself 100 lies to help me sleep at night. And now I've got a chance to make it right. Or start to anyway. She pulled out a leather satchel. I've got copies of everything. Victor's embezzlement, your journal entries, medical records from Doc, witness statements from people who are finally ready to talk. Witness statements. A lot of people saw things, Mrs. Whitmore. They were just too scared to speak. But fear has a way of breaking when shame gets loud enough. Eleanor looked at the satchel, at the woman holding it, at the years of silence finally giving way to truth. Why did you keep records all this time? Because my sister died the same way you almost did, 20 years ago. Her husband beat her to death, and nobody did anything. I couldn't save her, but I swore I'd save someone else someday. You've been waiting 20 years, waiting for someone brave enough to run. Beatrice's eyes were wet. You ran, Mrs. Whitmore. You grabbed your children and ran into a blizzard with a broken leg. That's the bravest thing I've ever seen. Eleanor didn't know what to say. For 3 years, she'd thought she was alone, thought nobody saw, nobody cared. Now she was learning that people had been watching all along, waiting, collecting evidence, building a case. She just hadn't known it. Thank you, she said finally, for not forgetting. Thank you for not giving up. The two women looked at each other, a moment of understanding passing between them. Survivors of different storms, but storms all the same. Then Beatrice got to work, organizing papers, writing statements, building the case that would put Victor Crane away forever. Meanwhile, Jed sat with Lucy on the porch. The snow had stopped. The sun was out. For the first time in days, the world looked almost peaceful. Mr. Jed. Yeah. What's going to happen to us after the trial? Jed thought about that. About Eleanor's broken leg and empty pockets. About Lucy's bare feet and hungry eyes. About Grace's thin wail and fevered skin. What do you want to happen? Lucy was quiet for a moment. Then she pulled something from her pocket. A small book, worn and water-stained. The one she'd been carrying since that first night. My grandpa gave me this, before he died. Said it was the most important book in the world. What is it? Poetry, Emily Dickinson. Lucy opened it carefully, like it might fall apart in her hands. I know most people think poetry's silly, but Grandpa said poets know things other people don't. They see the truth underneath the lies. Your grandpa sounds like a wise man. He was. Lucy's voice went soft. He died when I was 6, right before Mama married Pa. Sometimes I think, if Grandpa had lived, maybe things would have been different. Maybe. But he didn't live, and things happened the way they happened, and now we're here. She looked at Jed. Where's here exactly? My cabin, my land, such as it is. Is it nice? When it's not being attacked by angry men with torches? Jed almost laughed. It's quiet, peaceful. Got a creek out back full of trout. Mountains all around. Clara used to say it was the prettiest place she'd ever seen. Who's Clara? Jed's heart clenched. My wife. She died 4 years ago. I'm sorry. Me too. Lucy was quiet again. Then she said, Do you think she'd mind if we stayed here after everything's over? Jed looked at this child. This brave, broken child who'd lost everything and still found room for hope. I think she'd want me to stop living like a ghost, he said finally. I think she'd want this cabin to have life in it again. Laughter, love. So we can stay? That's up to your mama. But you'd let us, if she said yes. Jed nodded slowly. Yeah, I'd let you. Lucy smiled, the first real smile he'd seen from her. It transformed her face, made her look like the child she was supposed to be, instead of the survivor she'd had to become. I'll ask her, Lucy said. When she's feeling better, when all this is over. You do that. That evening, Doc Morrison set Eleanor's leg properly. She screamed into a leather strap, while Jed held her hand and Lucy covered Grace's ears. When it was over, Eleanor lay there pale and shaking, but her eyes were clear. How bad? Clean break, Doc said. Should heal right if you stay off it for 6 weeks. No walking, no standing, nothing. 6 weeks, at least. Eleanor looked at Jed, at the cabin she'd invaded, the life she'd disrupted, the peace she'd shattered. I can't impose on you for 6 weeks. There must be somewhere else. A boarding house, a hotel. Nearest hotel's in Silver Fork, Jed said, 20 miles away. And even if you could get there, Victor's got friends. People who might not take kindly to you showing your face. So I'm stuck here. You're safe here. Jed stood. There's a difference. But your life, your routine. My life was empty. My routine was dying slow. He looked at her, and something in his eyes made her breath catch. Maybe getting interrupted was the best thing that could have happened. Eleanor didn't know what to say to that. Neither did Jed apparently, because he turned and walked outside, left her lying there with a set leg and a confused heart. Beatrice watched him go, then looked at Eleanor. That's a good man. I know. A lonely man. I know that too. His wife's been dead 4 years. Everyone in the territories tried to set him up with someone. He's turned them all down, said his heart died with Clara. Why are you telling me this? Beatrice smiled, knowing, gentle. Because I've been watching him since you got here, the way he looks at you, the way he looks at those children. Something's waking up in him, something that's been asleep a long time. We've known each other 3 days. 3 days, 3 years, 3 decades. Time doesn't matter when souls recognize each other. That's very poetic. My sister was the poet. I'm just the storekeeper who remembers her words. Beatrice gathered her papers. But I'll tell you this, Mrs. Whitmore. Second chances don't come often. When they do, you grab them with both hands and you don't let go. She left. Eleanor lay there staring at the ceiling, thinking about second chances. About hands that were gentle instead of cruel. About eyes that saw her as a person instead of property. About a giant rancher who'd walked into a blizzard to save her life. The days that followed were strange. Peaceful in a way Eleanor hadn't known peace could be. No fists coming out of nowhere. No screaming. No walking on eggshells waiting for the next explosion. Just quiet. And kindness. And the slow business of healing. Jed barely spoke. He'd bring her food, check her bandages, make sure she had everything she needed. Then he'd disappear off to chop wood or tend horses or do whatever it was he did to fill the long hours. But sometimes when he thought she wasn't looking, Eleanor caught him watching her. Not the way Victor used to watch. Not possessive. Not calculating. More like wondering. Like he was trying to figure out a puzzle he didn't have all the pieces to. Lucy, meanwhile, had attached herself to Jed like a shadow. Followed him everywhere. Asked 1,000 questions about everything. How do you saddle a horse? Why does the creek freeze from the edges? What makes bread rise? How do you know when a storm's coming? Jed answered every question. Patient, thorough, like he had all the time in the world. She's never had a father, Eleanor said one evening watching them through the window. Jed was teaching Lucy to split kindling, her small hands on the axe, his big hands guiding them. I mean, she's had Victor, but that's not the same as having a father. No, Doc agreed. He'd been coming by daily to check on her leg. It's not. She needs someone to look up to. Someone who'll show her that men can be good. That not all of them are monsters. I was going to say broken, but monsters works too. Doc set down his medical bag. Can I tell you something as a doctor and as a man who's seen too much? Of course. That child is remarkable. What she's been through would have destroyed most adults. But she's still standing, still fighting, still hoping. She gets that from her grandmother, my mother, strongest woman I ever knew. And you, where do you get your strength? Eleanor thought about that. I don't feel strong. I feel like I'm barely holding on, like one strong wind could blow me apart. That's what strength feels like, when you're in the middle of it. Doc smiled sadly. The people who think they're strong usually aren't. It's the ones who feel like they're breaking, who are actually holding the world together. Is that supposed to be comforting? It's supposed to be true. Comfort's extra. That night, Eleanor couldn't sleep. Her leg ached. Her mind raced. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Victor's face. Heard his voice. Felt his fists. She'd escaped him. She knew that. He was in jail. He couldn't hurt her anymore. But the body remembers. The heart remembers. 3 years of terror don't disappear in a week. Around midnight, she heard movement in the main room. Quiet footsteps. Then the creak of the front door. Jed. She should let him go. Should mind her own business. He was allowed his privacy, his midnight walks, his grief. But something made her call out. Jed. Silence. Then footsteps coming back. His face appeared in the doorway. You should be sleeping. Can't. Leg hurting. Not the leg. She paused. Would you sit with me just for a while? He hesitated. She could see the war in his eyes. The wanting and the fear. The loneliness and the walls he'd built against it. Then he nodded. He pulled the chair up beside her bed. Sat down heavy. His hands rested on his knees, big and scarred and gentle. What's keeping you awake? He asked. Memories. Fears. The usual. The usual? He almost smiled. Ain't nothing usual about what you've been through. Maybe not, but it feels usual now. I've been scared so long I don't know how to stop. You don't stop, not all at once. You just wake up one day and realize you were scared yesterday, but you're a little less scared today. Then you wake up again and you're a little less scared than that. Eventually the fear gets small enough to carry. Is that what happened with you? After Clara? Jed was quiet for a long moment. After Clara, I wanted to die. Every day for a year, I woke up wishing I hadn't. The only reason I kept going was because dying would have meant giving up, and she wouldn't have wanted that. She sounds like she was wonderful. She was smart, funny, stubborn as a mule in a mud puddle. His voice softened. She used to sing while she cooked. Terrible voice. Couldn't carry a tune in a bucket. But I'd sit there listening like it was the prettiest sound in the world. Do you miss her? Every day, every hour, every minute. He looked at Eleanor. But lately I've started missing her differently. Not like something's been torn out of me. More like she's a part of me now. In my blood, my bones. She's gone, but she's not. That's beautiful. That's survival. You do what you have to do to keep breathing. They sat in silence for a while. The fire crackled. The wind blew outside. Grace made small sounds in her sleep. "Can I ask you something?" Eleanor said. "Anything. Why did you help us? Really, you could have turned us away. Could have minded your own business. Could have let Victor take us back." Jed thought about that. When Lucy showed up at my door bloody and desperate, holding her baby sister like the whole world depended on it, I saw Clara. Not her face, not her voice. Just her spirit. That fierce, stubborn, never-give-up spirit. And that made you help. That made me realize I had a choice. I could let another woman die while I watched, or I could do something. Be someone. For the first time in 4 years, I could matter again. He looked at her. His eyes were wet. "You didn't just need saving, Eleanor. I did too. You just didn't know it." Eleanor reached out, took his hand. He flinched. Not from pain. From surprise. From the unfamiliar feeling of touch that wasn't violent. "Thank you," she whispered, "for choosing us. Thank you for knocking on my door." They sat there hand in hand while the night deepened around them. Two broken people finding pieces of each other that fit. Not love, not yet, but something that could become love if given time and care. The fire burned down to embers. Outside, the stars wheeled overhead. And somewhere in the darkness, hope began to grow. Morning brought visitors. Tom Harker arrived first with news from town. Victor was being transferred to Cheyenne for trial. The federal marshal had arrived the day before. Things were moving fast. "People are talking," Tom said. "The whole territory knows what happened. What Victor did. What you did to stop him." "I didn't do anything," Jed said. "Just told the truth." "Truth's more than most people do." Tom shifted uncomfortably. "Listen, I came to say, I'm sorry. Should have spoken up years ago. Should have done something. You're here now. Is that enough?" Jed looked at this man, this ordinary man who'd stayed silent while evil happened, who'd made excuses, who'd looked away. "It's a start," he said finally. "Being sorry's easy. Doing something's hard. You want to make it right. Find someone who needs help and help them. That's how you pay back what you owe." Tom nodded, thoughtful, changed. Then came Beatrice with more papers to sign. Reverend Blackwood with apologies that rang hollow but might become sincere. Neighbors who'd never spoken to Jed in 4 years suddenly wanting to know how he was doing. How the woman was doing. How the children were doing. Jed accepted their curiosity. Didn't trust it, but accepted it. People were watching now. That could be good or bad depending on how things went. But one visitor surprised him. Sarah Crane, Victor's mother. She arrived alone on a horse that had seen better days, her face weathered by grief and shame. "Mrs. Crane." Jed stood on the porch blocking her way. "I'm not sure you should be here." I know I'm probably the last person you want to see." Her voice shook. "But I had to come. I had to say." She stopped, covered her face with her hands. When she looked up, tears were streaming. "I knew. All these years I knew what he was doing. He's my son, my boy. But I knew. And I said nothing." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I want Mrs. Whitmore to know. I want her to know that someone in my family sees her, believes her, is sorry." Jed studied this woman, this mother of a monster, looking for the monster in her, looking for the lies. He didn't find them. "Wait here." He went inside, told Eleanor, watched her face cycle through emotions, shock, fear, anger, confusion, and finally something like pity. "Let her in." "You sure?" "No, but let her in anyway." Sarah Crane walked into that cabin like she was walking to her own execution, head bowed, shoulders hunched, carrying the weight of her son's sins. She knelt beside Eleanor's bed. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. There aren't words for how sorry I am." Eleanor looked at this woman, saw the guilt eating her alive, saw the mother trying to understand how her child became a monster. "Did you know before I married him? No, I swear, he was always difficult. But I never thought, I never imagined." "When did you know?" "The first year. You came to church with bruises, said you fell. I knew it was a lie. I knew because—" Sarah's voice broke. "Because my husband did the same thing to me. For 20 years. Same lies. Same excuses. Same silence." Eleanor's breath caught. "Victor watched his father beat me. Learned from him. Became him." Sarah's tears fell freely now. "I should have left. Should have taken him away. Should have broken the cycle. But I was scared. And weak. And now you've paid the price for my cowardice." For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Eleanor reached out, took Sarah's hand. "We can't change what's been done. We can only change what happens next. How can you forgive me after everything?" "I'm not forgiving you. Not yet. Maybe not ever." Eleanor's voice was steady. "But I'm choosing not to carry hatred. It's too heavy. It's too poisonous. And I've got 2 daughters who need to see their mother choose love over hate." Sarah sobbed, grabbed Eleanor's hand with both of hers. "Thank you. Thank you." "Don't thank me. Do better. Be better. Make sure what happened to me never happens to anyone else. That's how you earn forgiveness. Not with words, with actions." Sarah nodded, wiped her eyes, stood up. "I'll testify, against my own son. I'll tell them everything I know, everything I saw, everything I should have stopped." "That's a start." Sarah looked at Jed, at Lucy, at Grace. "Take care of them. Please. Give them the life my son stole from them." She left. The cabin fell silent. Lucy came over, climbed onto the bed. "Mama. Why were you nice to her? She's the bad man's mother." "Because being cruel doesn't undo cruelty. It just makes more of it." "I don't understand." "You will." Eleanor stroked her daughter's hair. "Someday when you're older, you'll understand." Lucy thought about that. "Mr. Jed." "Yeah. Is that true? Being mean just makes more meanness." Jed nodded slowly. "My father used to say anger's like a wildfire. Feels powerful when you're holding the torch, but you can't control where it spreads. Eventually it burns down everything, including you." "Your father sounds smart." "He was a difficult man, but sometimes difficult men say wise things." Lucy nodded, solemn. "I'm going to remember that, about the fire, about not being mean even when people are mean to me." "That's a good thing to remember." "And I'm going to write it in my book." She pulled out the poetry collection. "Grandpa said to write down important things so you don't forget." She found a blank page in the back, began writing in careful childish letters. "Anger is a fire. Don't hold the torch." Jed watched her write, watched Eleanor watch her, watched this moment of peace in the middle of chaos. And he thought for the first time in 4 years that maybe the world wasn't all darkness. Maybe there was light too. You just had to know where to look. 2 weeks passed like water through fingers. Eleanor's leg began to heal. Doc Morrison came every 3rd day, checking the splint, adjusting the bandages, nodding his approval at her progress. She could sit up now without screaming, could hold Grace without fear of dropping her. Small victories, but victories all the same. Lucy had transformed in those 2 weeks. The haunted look faded from her eyes. She smiled more, laughed sometimes, still flinched when doors slammed, or voices rose but less than before. Jed had given her chores, small tasks that made her feel useful instead of helpless. Collecting eggs, feeding the horses, learning to read the weather in the clouds. "She's a different child," Eleanor said one evening, watching Lucy chase a barn cat across the yard. "I almost don't recognize her." "She was always this child," Jed replied. "Just buried under fear. Now she's digging herself out." Like her mother. Jed looked at Eleanor. Really looked. Yeah, like her mother. Something passed between them. Something neither was ready to name. Eleanor looked away first. "The trial starts tomorrow." "I know. I have to testify." "I know that too." "I'm scared, Jed." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Not of Victor. Not anymore. But of standing up there in front of everyone, telling strangers the worst things that ever happened to me. Having them judge whether my pain is real enough to matter." Jed sat down beside her bed, took her hand. He'd started doing that lately when she needed steadying. His touch was always gentle, always brief, always asking permission without words. "You don't have to prove anything to anyone. The law says I do. The law's wrong about a lot of things. But here's what I know you survived. You protected your children. You walked through a blizzard on a broken leg to save them. That's not something that needs proving. That's something that speaks for itself. What if they don't believe me? Then they're fools, and fools don't get to decide your worth." Eleanor squeezed his hand. "Will you be there in the courtroom? Couldn't keep me away. Even if it means the whole territory sees you with the scandalous woman who left her husband." Jed almost smiled. "I've been called worse than scandalous. And you're not the one who should be ashamed." The next morning they made the journey to Cheyenne. Doc Morrison had rigged a wagon with cushions and blankets, trying to make the 20-mile ride as painless as possible for Eleanor's leg. It wasn't painless. Every bump and rut sent fire through her bones. But she didn't complain. She'd learned long ago that complaining only made things worse. Lucy sat beside her mother holding Grace, watching the world pass by. Jed drove the wagon, his back straight, his eyes on the road ahead. "Mr. Jed." "Yeah." "What happens if they let Pa go?" Jed's jaw tightened. "They won't." "But what if they do?" "Then I'll be there, between him and you, always." "You promise?" "I promise." Lucy nodded, satisfied. She'd learned to trust his promises. They were different from her father's promises, which came wrapped in honey and ended in blood. Cheyenne was bigger than Silver Fork, louder, more people, more buildings, more everything. Eleanor hadn't seen this many faces since leaving Boston 3 years ago. The courthouse sat at the center of town, a brick building with white columns that were supposed to look dignified, but mostly looked pretentious. A crowd had already gathered outside. Word had spread about the trial, about the deputy who beat his wife, about the rancher who'd saved her, about the child who'd walked through a blizzard barefoot. People loved a story, especially a story with villains and heroes. "There she is," someone shouted as the wagon approached. "That's the woman." Faces turned. Eyes stared. Eleanor felt herself shrinking, wanting to disappear into the blankets. Jed jumped down from the wagon, positioned himself between Eleanor and the crowd. "Make way. She's injured. She needs to get inside." The crowd parted. Some looked sympathetic. Some looked curious. A few looked hostile women, mostly, who'd spent their whole lives being told that a wife's place was with her husband, no matter what. "Jezebel," one woman hissed. "Homewrecker." Jed stopped, turned. "What did you call her?" The woman paled, stepped back. I didn't mean..." You called a woman who's been beaten half to death a Jezebel. You called a mother who nearly died protecting her children a homewrecker. Jed's voice was quiet. Dangerous. You want to say that again louder, so everyone can hear. The woman fled. Jed helped Eleanor out of the wagon, carried her up the courthouse steps. Lucy followed Grace in her arms, her small face set in determination. Inside the courtroom was packed, every seat taken, people standing along the walls, the air thick with anticipation and judgment. Judge Harrison Wells sat at the front, a gray-haired man with spectacles and a reputation for fairness. Federal judge, not territorial. That mattered. Federal judges answered to Washington, not to local sheriffs and their corrupt cousins. Victor Crane sat at the defendant's table. Eleanor saw him and froze. Even in chains, even in prison clothes, he looked like the man she'd married. Handsome, charming, the kind of face that made women trust him, the kind of smile that hid teeth. Easy. Jed's voice was in her ear. I've got you. I can't do this. You can. You've done harder. He's looking at me. Let him look. He can't touch you. Not anymore. Jed carried her to a seat in the front row, set her down gently. Lucy pressed close on one side. Beatrice appeared on the other. You're not alone, Beatrice whispered. Look around. Eleanor looked. She saw Doc Morrison, his medical bag clutched in his lap, ready to testify. She saw Tom Harker and his wife, who'd brought their daughter Sarah as a reminder of what was at stake. She saw other women, some she recognized from Silver Fork, some she didn't. Women with bruises they'd learned to hide. Women with stories they'd never told. Women who'd come to see one of their own fight back. All rise. The room stood. Judge Wells entered. The trial began. The prosecutor was a young man named David Chen. Sharp eyes, quick mind. He'd come from San Francisco specifically for this case. Said it mattered. Said it would set precedent. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Chen began. This case is not complicated. Victor Crane systematically abused his wife for 3 years. Beat her, burned her, broke her bones. When she finally found the courage to escape, he gathered a mob to drag her back. The evidence is overwhelming. The witnesses are numerous. Your only job is to look at the truth and call it what it is. Victor's defense attorney, a slick man named Pemberton, who'd come up from Denver, stood next. Ladies and gentlemen, my client is not a monster. He's a husband, a father, a deputy who served his community faithfully for 5 years. Yes, his marriage had difficulties. What marriage doesn't? But this case isn't about a man disciplining his household. It's about a woman who abandoned her vows, took his children, and turned the whole territory against him with wild accusations. Eleanor's stomach churned. The first witness was Doc Morrison. Dr. Morrison, Chen said, you examined Mrs. Whitmore. Tell us what you found. Doc opened his notebook. His hands were steady, but his voice shook. 17 distinct injuries in various stages of healing. 3 broken ribs. A fractured left wrist that was never properly set. Burns on her back consistent with contact with a hot iron. Malnutrition, anemia, multiple contusions to the face and torso. In your professional opinion, could these injuries have been caused by accidents? Falls? No. Doc's voice hardened. I've been a physician for 40 years. I know the difference between a woman who falls and a woman who's been pushed. These injuries were deliberate, systematic, sustained over a long period of time. And the children? The baby Grace was severely malnourished. Another week without proper care, she would have died. The older child, Lucy, showed signs of chronic stress, flinching at sudden movements, difficulty sleeping, the kind of responses you see in people who've lived in constant fear. Pemberton stood for cross-examination. Dr. Morrison, isn't it true that you've had problems with alcohol? Doc didn't flinch. I did, 20 years ago. I've been sober since. Isn't it true that your medical license was suspended in 1872? For 6 months, due to circumstances that have no bearing on this case. Isn't it possible that your judgment is impaired, that you see what you want to see? Doc looked at Pemberton, then at Victor, then at the jury. 20 years ago, my daughter was murdered by her husband. I didn't save her. I've carried that guilt every day since. So when I see a woman with 17 injuries and a story that matches the wounds, I don't dismiss her. I believe her, because I know what happens when we don't. The courtroom went silent. Pemberton sat down. Next was Beatrice. She presented the ledgers, the financial records, the evidence of embezzlement that went back 5 years. These are Victor Crane's signatures, she said, pointing to page after page. These are county funds that were supposed to go to Rhodes School's medical supplies. Instead, they went into his pocket. $3,400. Forgeries, Victor shouted from the defendant's table. She made those up. Mr. Crane, Judge Wells said sharply, you will be silent or you will be removed. Victor's attorney whispered something in his ear. He sat back fuming. Then it was Eleanor's turn. Jed helped her to the witness stand. She could feel everyone's eyes on her, judging, wondering, deciding whether to believe her before she'd even spoken. Mrs. Whitmore, Chen said gently, I know this is difficult. Take your time. Eleanor looked at the jury. 12 faces, 7 men, 5 women, some sympathetic, some skeptical, all waiting. I came to Montana as a mail-order bride, she began. Her voice was thin, barely audible. I was a school teacher in Boston. My parents died and I had nothing. Victor's letters seemed so kind, so full of promise. I thought I was starting a new life. What happened when you arrived? The first night he hit me. Said I'd looked at another man on the train. I hadn't. I don't even remember seeing another man. But it didn't matter. He'd already decided I was guilty. And after that, it got worse. Every day there was something. I'd cooked wrong. I'd spoken wrong. I'd breathed wrong. Every day there was a reason for him to hurt me. Did you ever fight back? Once, early on. I pushed him away when he was choking me. He broke my arm for that. Said if I ever raised a hand to him again, he'd kill me. I believed him. Why didn't you leave? Eleanor laughed. A broken sound. Leave to where I had no money, no family, no friends. The law said I was his property. The church said I'd made a vow before God. The whole town said I should be grateful he'd taken me in. She looked at the jury. You want to know why women don't leave? That's why. Because leaving means losing everything. Because staying means you might survive another day. Because hope dies slow, even when everything else is already dead. Tell us about the night you escaped, Eleanor told them. About Victor coming home drunk with the hot iron. About grabbing her children and running. About Lucy walking barefoot through a blizzard. About Jed opening his door. When she finished, she was crying. Couldn't help it. 3 years of tears finally breaking free. Pemberton stood for cross-examination. His smile made Eleanor's skin crawl. Mrs. Whitmore, isn't it true that you've been living with another man since leaving your husband? I've been recovering from my injuries in Mr. Callahan's cabin. He's been a gentleman. A gentleman. And yet you've been sharing his home, his meals, his bed. He gave me his bed because I was injured. He slept on the floor. So you say. So I say because it's the truth. The truth. Pemberton walked closer. Mrs. Whitmore, isn't it true that you were unhappy in your marriage from the start, that you resented being a wife and mother, that you looked for any excuse to leave? I was unhappy because my husband beat me every day. Or perhaps you provoked him. Perhaps you made his life so difficult that he lost his temper occasionally. Isn't that what happened? Eleanor stared at this man, this well-dressed man who was trying to turn her suffering into her fault. Mr. Pemberton, she said quietly, if I provoked my husband by existing, by breathing, by being alive, then yes, I suppose I'm guilty. but I don't think existing is a crime. I don't think breathing deserves punishment. And I don't think any woman anywhere has ever provoked the kind of treatment I received. But he broke my ribs for burning dinner. He burned me with an iron for speaking to a neighbor. He fractured my wrist for crying too loud. What did I do to provoke that? What could anyone do to deserve that? Pemberton opened his mouth, closed it, looked at the jury. They weren't looking at him. They were looking at Eleanor. No further questions. The trial continued for 2 more days. Witness after witness took the stand. Tom Harker, who'd seen Victor hit Eleanor in the street. Mrs. Chen from the boarding house, who'd heard screaming from the Crane residence at night. The Reverend Blackwood, who'd finally found his conscience and admitted to ignoring signs of abuse for years. And Lucy. She'd insisted on testifying. Eleanor hadn't wanted it. Hadn't wanted her daughter to relive the horror in front of strangers. But Lucy had been firm. I have to tell them, Mama. They need to hear it from someone who saw. So she took the stand, 10 years old, holding her poetry book like a talisman. Lucy, Chen said gently, can you tell us what life was like at home? Lucy looked at her father. For a long moment, she didn't speak. Then she turned to the jury. Pa hit Mama every day, every single day. Sometimes with his hand, sometimes with his belt, sometimes with whatever was close. I used to hide under my bed and cover my ears, but I could still hear her screaming. Did he ever hurt you? Once. I tried to stop him from hitting Mama. He knocked me down, split my lip. She touched her face where the scar was still visible. Mama tried to protect me after that. Said I should stay quiet, stay small, don't make him notice you. Were you scared of your father? Every day, every night. Even when he was being nice, I was scared, because nice always ended, and what came after was always worse. What do you mean worse? Lucy's voice dropped. The nice times were when he was setting a trap, being sweet so we'd let our guard down. Then when we relaxed, when we thought maybe this time he'd changed, he'd do something terrible. Break something, hurt someone, remind us that we belong to him. Lucy. Pemberton stood for cross-examination. You love your father, don't you? Lucy thought about that. I don't know what love means. I know what fear means. I know what pain means. If that's love, then no, I don't love him. I don't think I ever did. Pemberton had no response to that. On the 3rd day, Victor took the stand in his own defense. He'd cleaned up, shaved, put on the charming face that had fooled Eleanor 3 years ago. But Eleanor saw through it now, saw the rage behind the smile, the cruelty behind the charm. I love my wife, Victor said, his voice cracking with well-practiced emotion. I've always loved her. Yes, we had problems. What marriage doesn't? But I never meant to hurt her. I never wanted to cause her pain. Then how do you explain her injuries? Chen asked. She's clumsy, always has been. Falls downstairs, burns herself on the stove. I've tried to help her be more careful, but she never listens. 17 injuries, 3 broken ribs, a fractured wrist, burns from a hot iron, all accidents. She's very clumsy. And the night she escaped. When you gathered 30 men to drag her back, was that love? I was worried about her, about our children. She wasn't in her right mind. Running into a blizzard with a broken leg, that's not rational. I just wanted to bring her home, keep her safe. By burning down Mr. Callahan's property, by threatening to kill anyone who stood in your way. Victor's mask slipped. Just for a second, the rage flashed in his eyes. I never burned anything. I never threatened anyone. Those are lies. She's been lying about me from the start. Why would she lie? Because she wants out of our marriage. Because she found another man, a rich rancher with a big cabin and no wife. She saw her chance and she took it, made up stories to justify abandoning her vows. Eleanor felt Jed's hand find hers. Squeeze. Mr.
Crane, Chen said slowly. The ledgers show you've been embezzling county funds for 5 years. $3,400. Is that also a lie? Victor's face went white. Those records are forged. They have your signature 37 times. Someone copied my signature. Who? Why? I don't know. Enemies. People who want to bring me down. People like your wife. Your daughter. The dozens of witnesses who've testified to your abuse. Yes, Victor was shouting now. All of them. They're all against me. They've been planning this for years. She's turned everyone against me. So let me understand. Chen's voice was calm. Ice. Your wife, who you claim to love, has been orchestrating a vast conspiracy against you. She's forged financial records, bribed witnesses, faked injuries, and convinced your own mother to testify against you, all while being beaten daily for 3 years. Yes, that's exactly what happened. That's quite a conspiracy. She's clever, manipulative. You don't know her like I do. I think, Chen said quietly, we're beginning to. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Eleanor sat in the courtroom waiting. Jed beside her. Lucy beside him. Grace asleep in Beatrice's arms. 4 hours of her life hanging in the balance. 4 hours of wondering if the truth would be enough. If her pain would matter. If justice existed, or was just another story people told themselves. When the jury filed back in, their faces gave nothing away. Has the jury reached a verdict? Judge Wells asked. The foreman stood. A weathered farmer named Samuel Brown. Hands rough from work. Eyes tired from life. We have your honor. On the charge of embezzlement. Guilty. On the charge of assault with intent to cause bodily harm. Guilty. On the charge of attempted murder. Eleanor held her breath. Guilty. The courtroom erupted, some cheering, some crying, some just sitting in stunned silence. Victor was screaming. No, no, this isn't right. She's lying. They're all lying. Guards grabbed him, dragged him away. But before they got him through the door, he twisted free, just for a second, just long enough to look at Eleanor. This isn't over, he snarled. You think you've won. You haven't won anything. I'll get out. I'll find you. The guards wrestled him down, carried him out, but his eyes stayed with Eleanor long after he was gone. The judge sentenced Victor to 25 years in federal prison. Embezzlement, assault, attempted murder. The maximum for each charge served consecutively. Mr. Crane, Judge Wells said, his voice heavy with disgust. You have brought shame upon the badge you wore. You have betrayed the trust of your community, and you have systematically brutalized the woman who was supposed to be your partner in life. The court has no sympathy for you. May God have mercy on your soul, because this court has none. They led Victor away. Eleanor watched him go. This man, who had been her nightmare for 3 years, who had broken her body and nearly broken her spirit, who had made her believe she deserved every blow. She waited to feel something, relief, joy, triumph. Instead, she felt empty. It's over, Jed said quietly. Is it? The trial is, the legal part. The rest. He looked at her. The rest takes longer. What rest? Healing. Learning to feel safe again. Learning to trust. Learning to believe you deserve good things. He took her hand. That's the harder part. But you don't have to do it alone. Eleanor looked at him. At this man who'd walked into her nightmare and stayed. Why? She whispered. Why did you stay? You could have walked away a dozen times. Nobody would have blamed you. I would have blamed me. But why? Jed was quiet for a long moment. Because some things are worth fighting for. Some people are worth fighting for, even when you don't know them, even when you've got nothing to gain. And now, do you know me now? I'm starting to. Is it worth it? What you're learning? He smiled. For the first time since Clara died, it reached his eyes. Yeah, it's worth it. Outside the courthouse, the crowd had grown.
People wanting to shake Eleanor's hand, wanting to congratulate her, wanting to be part of the story. But Eleanor was tired. So tired. 3 days of testimony. 3 years of fear. A lifetime of learning that the world wasn't safe. Jed cleared a path to the wagon, helped her up, climbed in beside her. "Let's go home," Lucy said. Eleanor looked at her daughter, at this brave child who'd walked through fire and come out stronger. "Home?" "Mr. Jed's cabin. That's home now, isn't it?" Eleanor looked at Jed. He looked back. "If you want it to be," he said, "I want it to be." Lucy answered for her mother. "I want to wake up every morning without being scared. I want Grace to grow up knowing what safe feels like. I want Mama to smile again." "I smile," Eleanor protested weakly. "Not with your eyes, not yet, but you will." Lucy snuggled close. "Mr. Jed will help." "Will he?" Jed flicked the reins. The horses started moving. "Reckon I'll try." The road to Silver Fork stretched out before them, 20 miles of snow and silence and possibility. Behind them, the courthouse, the trial, the verdict. Ahead of them, something else. Something that might, with time and care, become a life. The first week after the trial passed in a kind of haze. Eleanor slept more than she'd slept in 3 years. Deep, dreamless sleep. The kind that comes when your body finally stops waiting for the next blow. She'd wake up disoriented, forgetting where she was, forgetting that Victor couldn't reach her anymore. Then she'd hear Lucy laughing outside, hear Jed's low voice answering one of her 1,000 questions, hear Grace babbling in her crib, and she'd remember. Safe. They were safe. The word felt foreign in her mouth. She'd say it sometimes alone in the bedroom, testing it. Safe, safe, safe. Like learning a new language, like relearning how to breathe. "You talk to yourself." Eleanor startled. Lucy stood in the doorway, Grace on her hip. "I didn't realize." "It's okay. I talk to myself too. Mr. Jed says it's just thinking out loud." Lucy came closer, sat on the edge of the bed. "What were you thinking about? About being safe. Are we really?" The judge said 25 years. Pa's not getting out for a long, long time. But are we safe? Eleanor looked at her daughter. This child, who'd learned too young that promises meant nothing, that courts and judges and laws couldn't always protect you. "I don't know," Eleanor admitted. "I hope so." "That's honest." "You deserve honest." Lucy nodded, shifted Grace to her other hip. "Mr. Jed's making breakfast. He says you should eat more. Says you're too thin." "Mr. Jed says a lot of things. He means them, though. That's different." Lucy headed for the door. "He's not like Pa. He says what he thinks and thinks what he says." She left. Eleanor lay there, staring at the ceiling, thinking about a man who said what he meant, thinking about how rare that was, thinking about how terrifying it was to trust again. Breakfast was cornmeal mush with molasses, simple fare but warm and filling. Jed had carried Eleanor to the table. Her leg was healing, but Doc Morrison had forbidden her from walking for another 3 weeks. "I feel useless," Eleanor said, watching Jed clean up. "You're doing everything, cooking, cleaning, taking care of us. I should be helping." "You're healing, that's not useless." "It feels useless." Jed set down the dishes, turned to face her. "When Clara died, I couldn't get out of bed for 2 months. Didn't eat, didn't wash, didn't care about anything. Just lay there, waiting to die too." "What changed?" "Winter came. The horses needed feeding. The cabin needed heat. I could let myself die, but I couldn't let them suffer." He shrugged. "Sometimes taking care of something else is the only reason to keep going." "Is that what we are? Something else to take care of?" Jed's eyes met hers. "You're more than that, but I'm not sure either of us is ready to talk about what that means." Eleanor's heart stuttered. "No, I don't think we are." "Then we won't. Not yet." He picked up the dishes again.
But when you're ready, I'll be here. The second week brought visitors. Beatrice came first with supplies and gossip. The trial was all anyone in Silver Fork could talk about. Victor's name had become a curse word. His house had been seized by the county. His friends had scattered like rats. "The Cranes are finished," Beatrice said, unpacking flour and salt. Thomas resigned as sheriff. Said he couldn't show his face anymore. His wife's taking the children back east. And Sarah, Victor's mother. She's staying. Says she's got penance to do. She's been helping the church, if you can believe it. Reverend Blackwood's actually doing good works now instead of just preaching about them. "People change," Eleanor said. "Some do, some just get better at pretending." Beatrice paused. "Speaking of pretending, how are things here?" "What do you mean?" "I mean you. And Jed. Living under the same roof. Raising children together. The whole territory's talking." "Let them talk." "I'm not judging. Lord knows if any woman deserves happiness, it's you. But folks are wondering, are you too?" "We're healing," Eleanor said carefully. "That's all." "Is that all?" "For now." Beatrice smiled. Knowing. Gentle. "For now's a start." Doc Morrison came next, checking Eleanor's leg. He pronounced himself satisfied with the healing. Said she could try putting weight on it in another week. Maybe 2. "And the other healing?" he asked. "The kind I can't see." "Slower." "It always is." He packed up his bag. "You know, I've been thinking about what you said. At the trial. About why women don't leave." "What about it?" "I've been a doctor for 40 years. Seen hundreds of women with injuries they claimed came from accidents. And I believed them, or told myself I did." He shook his head. "I'm starting a clinic in Silver Fork, specifically for women. A safe place where they can tell the truth without judgment, where they can get help without having to go through their husbands." That's wonderful." "It's late. 20 years late at least. But late's better than never." He touched her hand. "You did that. You and Lucy. You made people see what they'd been ignoring. We just told the truth. Sometimes that's the bravest thing anyone can do." Then came the letter. Jed found it nailed to the fence post one morning. No signature, no return address. Just 6 words in cramped, angry handwriting. "This isn't over. He has friends." Jed didn't show Eleanor. Didn't want to scare her. But she saw the change in him. The way he started checking the windows more. The way he kept his rifle closer. The way he watched the road like he was waiting for trouble. "What's wrong?" "Nothing." "You're lying. You said you don't lie to children, but I'm not a child. What's wrong?" Jed looked at her, saw the determination in her eyes. The steel that had carried her through 3 years of hell. He showed her the letter. Eleanor read it. Her hands didn't shake. Her face didn't change. Victor's friends. Probably. Or someone who thinks he got a raw deal. What do? We be careful. We watch. We wait. Jed took the letter back. And if anyone comes, we deal with them. How? Same way we dealt with Victor. Together. That night, Eleanor couldn't sleep. She lay in bed staring at the darkness, listening to every creak and groan of the cabin. Every snap of the fire. Every whistle of wind. Around midnight, she heard footsteps. Then the creak of the front door. Jed. She should let him go. Should mind her own business. But something made her call out. "Where are you going?" He appeared in the doorway. "Just checking the perimeter. Go back to sleep." "I wasn't sleeping." The letter, among other things. Jed came into the room. Sat in the chair beside her bed. The same chair he'd sat in a dozen times now. The space between them shrinking with each conversation. "What other things?" "Everything. Nothing." Eleanor laughed softly. "I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, for something to go wrong, for the happiness to be taken away."
That's not happiness. That's survival. What's the difference? Happiness is when you stop waiting for bad things. When you trust that good things can last. He paused. I'm still learning that too. You seem so steady. Steady's just another word for numb. For years I didn't feel anything. Couldn't. Wouldn't. It was easier that way. What changed? You showed up. Eleanor's breath caught. Jed. I know. We're not ready to talk about it. But that doesn't make it less true. He stood. Get some sleep. I'll keep watch. You can't stay up all night. You need rest too. I've gone without sleep before. I'll manage. Jed. Eleanor reached for his hand. Stay. Please. Just stay. He looked at her hand on his, at her eyes in the firelight, at this woman who'd survived things that would have destroyed most people. He sat back down. I'll stay. They didn't talk after that. Didn't need to. Just sat together in the darkness, hand in hand, keeping watch against a world that had hurt them both. Sometime before dawn, Eleanor fell asleep. When she woke, Jed was gone. But his coat was draped over her, and the fire was built up high, and Lucy was standing in the doorway, with a smile on her face. I saw you two, last night. Saw us what? Holding hands. Lucy climbed onto the bed. Does that mean you're getting married? Lucy. What? It's a fair question. When a man and a woman hold hands, sometimes it means they're getting married. I read that in a book. Life isn't like books. I know. Books have happy endings. Lucy snuggled close. But maybe this time, life can be like a book, just this once. Eleanor held her daughter tight. Maybe. We'll see. That's what grown-ups say when they mean yes, but they're scared to say it. When did you get so smart? I've always been smart. I just had to hide it so Pa wouldn't get mad. Eleanor's heart broke. Again. Still. You never have to hide anymore. Not here. I know. Lucy pulled out her poetry book. I wrote something. Want to hear it? Always. Lucy cleared her throat. Read in a careful, serious voice. Safe is a house with warm walls. Safe is a voice that doesn't yell. Safe is hands that help not hurt. Safe is learning to trust what's real. She looked up. Is it good? It's beautiful. Mr. Jed helped me with the last line. He said trust is the hardest word to learn. He's right. But he also said the hardest words are usually the most important. Lucy closed her book. I trust him, Mama. I know it's scary. I know Pa seemed nice at first too. But Mr. Jed's different. I can feel it. Can you? In my bones. The same way I knew Pa was bad even when he was being sweet. The same way I knew we had to run that night. Lucy touched her heart. Some things you just know. Eleanor thought about that. About knowing. About trusting. About the difference between the fear that protects you and the fear that traps you. Maybe you're right, she said finally. I'm always right. Lucy grinned. It's my secret power. The third week brought spring. Not all at once. Just hints. A softening in the air. A dripping from the roof. A patch of green pushing through snow. Doc Morrison pronounced Eleanor ready to try walking. Just a few steps at first. Then more. Then more. Jed built her a crutch from oak, carved flowers into the handle. Didn't say why. Didn't have to. It's beautiful, Eleanor said, running her fingers over the petals. Wildflowers. Clara loved them. Said they grew where they weren't supposed to, which made them braver than garden flowers. Brave flowers. That's what she called them. Jed watched Eleanor take her first steps. You remind me of them. Of flowers. Of brave things that grow where they're not supposed to. Eleanor's eyes met his. Jed, I need to tell you something. What? I'm scared. Not of Victor. Not of his friends. Not of the world. She took a breath. I'm scared of you. Jed's face fell. Of me. Of how you make me feel. Of how much I want to trust you. Of how easy it would be to fall in love with you and then find out I was wrong again. Eleanor. Let me finish. Please. She gripped the crutch. Victor was kind at first. Sweet. Gentle. The perfect man. And then he wasn't. And I keep waiting for you to change too. Keep waiting for the mask to slip, for the monster to show itself. There's no monster. How do I know that? How can I ever know that? Jed was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, You can't. What? You can't know. Not for certain. Not ever. That's the terrible truth about trust. You have to give it without guarantees. You have to believe without proof. That's terrifying. Yeah, it is. He stepped closer. But here's what I can tell you. I'm not Victor. I've never hit a woman. Never wanted to. Never will. And if you spend the rest of your life waiting for me to turn into him, you'll miss everything that could be good. And if I'm wrong, if I trust you and you hurt me, then you'll survive. You'll pick yourself up and keep going. Because that's what you do. That's who you are. Jed touched her face, gentle, asking permission. But what if you're right? What if you trust me and I don't hurt you? What if this is actually what it seems to be? What if we could be happy? Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. I don't know how to be happy. Neither do I. But maybe we could learn together. She kissed him. Not because she was ready, not because the fear was gone, but because some things you have to do scared, some things you have to trust before you're certain. The kiss was soft, tentative. Two broken people trying to remember what love felt like. When they pulled apart, Lucy was standing in the doorway, Grace in her arms, a huge smile on her face. I knew it, she said. I knew it, I knew it, I knew it. Lucy. Can I call him Pa now? Not like the old Pa, a new Pa, a good Pa. Jed looked at Eleanor. Eleanor looked at Jed. That's up to Mr. Jed, Eleanor said. I'd be honored, Jed said quietly, if that's what you want. Lucy ran to him, threw her free arm around his waist, pressed her face into his shirt. I want a family, a real one, with Sunday dinners and bedtime stories and nobody being scared. Is that too much to ask? Jed knelt down, looked her in the eye. No, that's not too much. That's exactly what a family should be. Promise. Promise. Lucy nodded, satisfied. Good. Now can we have breakfast? I'm starving. The fourth week brought the fire. Not at the cabin. In town. Beatrice's store went up in flames at midnight. Everything destroyed. The ledgers, the records, the evidence that had put Victor away. The message was clear. Beatrice showed up at dawn, her face streaked with soot and tears. They burned it. They burned everything. Who? I don't know. I didn't see them. Just woke up to smoke and flames. She collapsed into a chair. 20 years of work, gone. Everything I built, gone. Eleanor hobbled over, sat beside her. But Victor's already convicted. The trial's over. This wasn't about the trial. Jed's voice was grim. This was about revenge and warning. Warning who? Anyone who might speak up next time. Anyone who might keep records. Anyone who might threaten men like Victor. He looked at Beatrice. You're lucky you got out alive. Lucky. Beatrice laughed bitterly. My whole life burned down and I'm lucky. You're alive. Eleanor's alive. The children are alive. That's more than luck. That's a miracle. What do we do now? Jed walked to the window, looked out at the road, at the mountains, at the world that had never stopped being dangerous. We rebuild. We keep going. We don't let them win. How they took everything. Not everything. Jed turned back. They didn't take us. They didn't take our voices. They didn't take our courage. Courage? Beatrice shook her head. I don't feel very courageous. Courage isn't feeling brave. It's doing what needs to be done when you're scared to death. He looked at Eleanor, at Beatrice, at Lucy, who stood in the doorway listening. You think Victor's friends scare me? They don't. You know what scares me. Going back to who I was before. Empty. Alone. Waiting to die. And now I've got something to fight for. Someone to fight for. He crossed to Eleanor, took her hand. I'm not giving that up. Not for Victor, not for his friends, not for anyone. Eleanor squeezed his hand. Neither am I. Beatrice looked at them, at this family that had formed from wreckage, at these broken people who'd found each other. Then neither am I, she said finally. Let them burn my store. I'll build another. Let them threaten me. I'll keep talking. They want a war, I'll give them a war. That's the spirit. The marshal came that afternoon. Federal Marshal Wade Hutchkins, the same one who'd helped convict Victor. He'd heard about the fire. Come to investigate. Same pattern as before, he said. Accelerant, middle of the night, no witnesses. Can you catch them? Beatrice asked. I can try, but these men are careful. They know how to cover their tracks. He looked at Jed. You need to be careful too. That letter you got. It wasn't a bluff. I figured. I can leave a deputy here, for protection. No need. Jed patted his rifle. I've got protection. Jed. Marshal, with respect, a deputy would just be another target. These men want to scare us. Best way to beat them is to not be scared. And if they do more than scare, then I'll do more than scare back. The marshal studied him, this giant rancher with the steady eyes and the quiet voice. You're a hard man, Callahan. I'm a man who's got something to lose. That makes me hard. That makes me careful. That makes me dangerous to anyone who threatens what's mine. What's yours? Jed looked at Eleanor, at Lucy, at Grace, sleeping in her crib. Everything that matters. The marshal nodded, understood. I'll do what I can from Cheyenne. Send word if anything else happens. He left. That night, Jed sat on the porch with his rifle across his knees. Eleanor came out to join him. Her leg was strong enough now for short walks. You should sleep, she said. Can't. The fire. The fire. The letter. Everything. He stared out at the darkness. I keep thinking about what they might do next. Who they might hurt. You can't protect everyone. I can try. Eleanor sat beside him, leaned her head on his shoulder. I used to dream about this, back in Boston before I came west. I'd dream about a man who'd fight for me, who'd stand between me and the world, who'd make me feel safe. And now I have it, and I'm terrified of losing it. You won't lose it. You can't promise that. No, but I can promise to fight for it. Every day, every hour, every breath. Eleanor closed her eyes. That's enough. That's everything. They sat together as the stars wheeled overhead, as the night grew cold and quiet, as somewhere out there Victor's friends plotted and planned and waited. But they weren't alone. They had each other. And sometimes that was enough to face anything. They came on a Tuesday night, 3 weeks after Beatrice's store burned, 3 weeks of watching and waiting, 3 weeks of jumping at every sound, every shadow, every knock at the door. Jed heard them first, the snap of a twig, the soft whinny of a horse being told to stay quiet. Sounds that didn't belong to the night. He was on his feet before Eleanor could ask what was wrong. Take the children. Back room. Don't come out no matter what you hear. Jed. Go. Now. Eleanor didn't argue. 3 years with Victor had taught her to recognize when a man meant business. She grabbed Grace from the crib, shook Lucy awake. "What's happening?" "We need to hide. Come on." They made it to the back room just as the first shot rang out. Glass shattered. A window exploded inward. Cold air rushed in carrying smoke and the smell of kerosene. They were going to burn the cabin. Jed pressed himself against the wall beside the broken window. Counted muzzle flashes. 3 shooters, maybe 4. Spread out in a half circle around the front. "Callahan." A voice from the darkness. Rough, mean. "You got one chance to walk out of this alive. Send out the woman and we'll let you be." Jed didn't answer, just raised his rifle. Waited. Another shot. This one hit the doorframe, sending splinters flying. "You think you can fight us all? You're one man, one old man against 4 guns." 5. Another voice. Different direction. "5 guns." Jed's heart sank. They had the cabin surrounded. In the back room, Lucy pressed her hands over Grace's ears. The baby was crying, terrified by the noise, by the fear in her mother's voice. "It's okay," Eleanor whispered. "It's going to be okay." "You're lying." Lucy's voice was flat. "You always lie when you're scared." "I'm not." "It's okay, Mama. I understand. Just tell me the truth. Are they going to kill us?" Eleanor looked at her daughter. This brave, broken child who'd walked through fire and come out stronger. Who'd learned to read lies before she learned to read books. "I don't know. But Jed's going to fight for us, and so am I." "How? You can't walk right. You can't shoot." "There's more than one way to fight." Eleanor crawled to the window, peered out, saw movement in the trees, shadows circling. She grabbed the oil lamp from the shelf, the one Jed kept for emergencies. "What are you doing?" "Something stupid." She lit the wick, waited until the flame was strong. Then she threw it. The lamp arced through the window, shattered against a tree. Flames erupted sudden and bright, illuminating the man hiding behind it. He screamed, stumbled out into the open. His coat was on fire. Jed's rifle cracked. The man went down. 4 left. "You bitch!" Someone was screaming now, angry, scared. "You're gonna pay for that." More shots, wild now, panicked. They hadn't expected resistance, hadn't expected the woman to fight back. Eleanor grabbed another lamp. There were 3 in the back room. Emergency supplies Jed kept stocked. "Lucy, when I throw this, I want you to scream, loud as you can." "Why?" "Because they need to think we're scared. They need to think we're giving up." "But we're not." "No, we're not." Eleanor threw the second lamp. Different direction this time. Another man caught in the flames. Another scream in the night. Lucy screamed too, high and terrified. Exactly what Eleanor had asked for. "They're burning!" one of the attackers was shouting. "They're burning us!" "Fall back! Fall back!" Jed saw his chance. He burst through the front door, rifle up, moving fast for a man his size. 1 shot. A man by the fence went down. 2 left. They were running now, scrambling for their horses. The fire from the lamps had spread to dry brush, creating chaos, confusion. Jed caught one of them before he could mount, grabbed him by the collar, slammed him against a tree. "Who sent you?" "I don't." "Who sent you?" "Crane, Marcus. Crane, Victor's brother. He paid us to finish what Victor started." Jed's blood went cold. Victor had a brother. Nobody had mentioned that. Nobody had warned them. "Where is he?" "I don't know. He stays in Denver, sends money. We just do what he says." "Who else is coming?" "Nobody." This was it. He said 4 men would be enough. He was wrong. Jed looked at this man, this hired killer who'd come to murder his family, who'd come to burn his home. For a moment, he wanted to kill him. Wanted to snap his neck and leave him in the snow. Wanted to make him pay for every moment of fear he'd caused. But then he thought of Lucy, of Eleanor, of the man he was trying to become. "You're going to deliver a message," Jed said quietly. "To Marcus Crane.
To anyone else who thinks they can threaten my family. What message? Jed leaned close. His voice dropped to a whisper. Tell them I'm coming. Tell them what happened here tonight. Tell them that anyone who threatens my wife or my children will answer to me. And I don't send hired men. I come myself. He let go. The man scrambled for his horse, rode away into the darkness. The fifth attacker was already gone. Fled at the first sign of real resistance. Jed stood in the yard surrounded by flames and fallen bodies. His hands were shaking, not from fear, from rage, from the terrible knowledge that this wasn't over, that it might never be over. Jed. Eleanor was in the doorway, Lucy beside her, Grace in her arms. He went to them, pulled them close, held them like he'd never let go. Is it over? Eleanor whispered. For tonight. And tomorrow. Tomorrow we figure out how to end this, for good. The marshal came at dawn. He'd heard the shots from town, come running with a deputy and a doctor, found 3 men dead in Jed's yard, found 2 more injured bleeding out from burns and bullets. Christ almighty, the marshal said, surveying the damage. What happened here? Jed told him. About the attack, about Marcus Crane, about the threat that wasn't going away. Victor's brother. The marshal shook his head. Should have known. The Cranes don't forgive. Don't forget. What do? We arrest these men, the ones still breathing. We trace the money back to Marcus. We build a case. That could take months, years. Meanwhile, he keeps sending people. What's the alternative? You going to Denver yourself, hunting him down? Jed didn't answer. That's what I thought. The marshal sighed. Listen, Callahan, I understand the impulse. Man threatens your family, you want to end him. But you're not a killer. Not really. And becoming one won't protect them. It'll just destroy you. Then what do you suggest? Let the law work. I'll send word to the federal office in Denver. They've been looking at Marcus Crane for years. Other crimes, other victims. This might be the evidence they need. Might be. It's better than getting yourself killed trying to fight alone. Eleanor appeared in the doorway. He's not alone. The marshal looked at her. At this woman who'd thrown lamps at armed men. Who'd fought beside her man when most would have hidden. No, ma'am. I reckon he's not. The weeks that followed were hard. Living with fear is exhausting. Every sound could be an attack. Every stranger could be a threat. Every night could be the night they came back. But they weren't alone. Tom Harker organized watches. Men from town taking turns guarding the road. Beatrice moved into the cabin temporarily, another set of eyes, another pair of hands. Doc Morrison came by daily checking on everyone's wounds, physical and otherwise. You've built something here, he said one evening watching the unlikely community gathered around Jed's table. Something real. Built what? Family. Not the blood kind, the chosen kind. He smiled sadly. That's the strongest kind there is. Lucy thrived in the chaos. She had purposes now, tasks, people counting on her. She ran messages between the watchers. She helped Beatrice cook for the volunteers. She read her poetry to anyone who'd listen. She's remarkable, Beatrice said, watching Lucy teach Grace to clap hands. After everything she's been through. Children are resilient, Eleanor said. Not all children. Most would be broken. She's blooming. She's got something to bloom for now. That makes a difference. Grace was walking, taking her first wobbly steps across the cabin floor. Jed had built her a little wooden walker, just 2 rails with handles. She clutched it like a lifeline, tottering forward, falling, getting up, trying again. Just like her mama, Eleanor said, watching. Like both her mamas. Jed came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist. The one who gave her life, and the one who saved it. Eleanor leaned back against him. I love you, she said. I don't think I've said that yet. Not properly. You've said it in 100 ways. But not with words. And words matter. She turned in his arms, looked up at him.
I love you, Jedediah Callahan. I love how you fight for us. I love how gentle you are with the girls. I love how you make me feel safe without making me feel small. Eleanor, let me finish. I spent 3 years with a man who said he loved me while he hurt me. I know the difference now between love that destroys and love that builds. What you give me is the building kind. Jed's eyes were wet. I love you too. I didn't think I could. Not after Clara. Thought that part of me died with her. What changed? You, Lucy, Grace. He touched her face. You didn't just need saving. You gave me a reason to live again. A purpose beyond survival. Is that enough a reason? It's everything. The letter from Denver arrived in late spring. Marshal Hutchkins brought it himself. His face was strange, happy and sad at the same time. Marcus Crane is dead. Eleanor's hand flew to her mouth. How? Shot by a business partner. Turns out he'd been cheating more people than just his brother's victims. One of them decided to settle accounts permanently. So it's over. The Cranes are finished. Victor's in prison for life. Marcus is in the ground. The family fortune's been seized by federal authorities. The marshal smiled. You're safe, really safe, for good. Eleanor couldn't speak, couldn't move. 3 years of fear, 3 years of running. And now, just like that, it was over. You're sure? Jed asked. There's no one else. No other brothers. No cousins with grudges. No one. I've checked. Double-checked. Triple-checked. The marshal handed him the official document. This is a federal declaration. The investigation into the Crane family is closed. All threats have been neutralized. Jed read the paper. Read it again. Then he looked at Eleanor. It's over, he said. It's really over. She burst into tears. Not from sadness. From relief so profound it felt like drowning. Like being pulled under by waves of emotion she'd been holding back for years. Jed held her. Let her cry. Let her shake and sob and release all the fear she'd been carrying. Lucy came running. What happened? What's wrong? Why is Mama crying? Happy tears, Jed said. The bad men are gone, all of them. Forever. Lucy's eyes went wide. Forever. Forever. She threw herself at them, joined the embrace. Grace tottered over on her walker, wanting to be part of whatever was happening. The marshal watched this family. This impossible family born from tragedy. His own eyes were wet. I'll leave you to it, he said quietly. You've earned this moment. He left. The cabin fell silent except for Eleanor's sobs, and Grace's babbling, and Lucy's whispered prayers of thanks. Safe. They were finally truly, permanently safe. The wedding happened in June. Not a big affair, just family and friends gathered in front of Jed's cabin. Doc Morrison officiated because the town was still looking for a new reverend after Blackwood moved away in shame. Eleanor wore Clara's wedding dress. Beatrice had altered it to fit. It seemed right somehow. Clara's blessing on a new beginning. Lucy was the flower girl. Grace was the ring bearer, though Jed had to hold her because she kept trying to eat the rings. Do you, Jedediah Callahan, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife? I do. Do you, Eleanor Whitmore, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband? Eleanor looked at Jed. At this giant of a man with the gentle hands and the steady heart. At this stranger who'd opened his door on the worst night of her life and changed everything. I do. Then by the power vested in me by absolutely nothing official, I pronounce you husband and wife. Doc grinned. Kiss her already. They kissed. The small crowd cheered. Tom Harker fired his pistol in the air. Beatrice threw rice. Lucy danced around them laughing. We're a real family now, Lucy said when the kiss ended. Legal and everything. We were always a real family, Jed said. The paper just makes it official. Can I call you Pa now for real? You've been calling me Pa for months. I know, but now it's true. Jed knelt down, looked his daughter in the eye. His daughter. The word still felt strange, still felt miraculous. Lucy Callahan has a nice ring to it. Lucy Callahan. She tested it, smiled. I like it. I like it a lot. That night after the celebration, after the guests had gone, Jed and Eleanor sat on the porch. Grace was asleep. Lucy was in her room writing in her poetry book. The stars were out. Thousands of them. More than you could count in a lifetime. What are you thinking? Eleanor asked. I'm thinking about Clara. You miss her. Always. But differently now. He took Eleanor's hand. She'd like you. She'd be glad I found you. How do you know? Because she wanted me to be happy. Even before she died, she made me promise. Said if something happened to her, I shouldn't waste my life grieving. Should find someone new. Build something new. Did you promise? I did. Then I broke that promise for 4 years. He looked at her. You helped me keep it. Eleanor leaned against him. This man who'd saved her. This man she'd saved right back. I was so scared, she whispered. When I came to your door that night, I thought you'd turn us away. Thought you'd be like everyone else. I almost did turn you away. What stopped you? Lucy's eyes. They looked like Clara's, not the color. The courage. He paused. And something else, something I can't explain. A feeling that if I closed that door, I'd be closing the door on my own soul. Fate. Maybe. Or just two broken people who needed each other and got lucky enough to find each other. Is that what we are? Lucky. We're alive. We're together. We've got 2 beautiful girls and a roof over our heads and people who care about us. He smiled. If that's not lucky, I don't know what is. The door creaked open. Lucy appeared in her nightgown. I wrote something, she said. For the wedding. I was too shy to read it in front of everyone, but I can read it now, if you want. We want, Eleanor said. Lucy sat between them, opened her poetry book, read in a clear, steady voice. Love is not loud. Love is a whisper. Love is a door that opens in the storm. Love is hands that help not hurt. Love is choosing family when blood fails. Love is a giant who kneels for a child. Love is a mother who throws fire at darkness. Love is a sister too young to remember, but old enough to be saved. Love is this. Right here. Right now. Love is us. She closed the book, looked up. Is it good? Eleanor was crying. Jed was crying. Neither of them could speak. Lucy nodded, satisfied. I'll take that as a yes. 3 years later, they built a new cabin, bigger than the old one, room for a growing family, room for guests, room for the life they were building. Lucy was 13 now, tall for her age, still writing poetry, still carrying her grandfather's book. She was teaching the younger children in town to read. Had a gift for it, Doc Morrison said. A way of making words come alive. Grace was 4, loud and wild and fearless. She'd forgotten the terror of her first year. Only knew this life, this safety, this love. And there was a new baby. A boy. James after Jed's father. 6 months old and already showing signs of his father's size and his mother's stubbornness. Another one, Beatrice had said when Eleanor told her the news. You're not wasting any time. We wasted enough time being scared, being alone. Now we're making up for it. The new cabin had a room just for Eleanor. A writing room, Jed called it. She'd started setting down her story. Not for publication, just for the record. Just so someone would remember what happened and what it taught her. What did it teach you? Lucy asked one evening, reading over her mother's shoulder. Eleanor thought about that. About all the lessons written in scars and tears and sleepless nights. It taught me that strength isn't about not falling. It's about getting up. Every time. No matter how many times you fall. What else? It taught me that help comes from unexpected places. That the stranger who seems scariest might be the safest. That you can't judge a man by his size or a woman by her bruises. What else? It taught me that family isn't blood, it's choice. It's showing up. It's fighting for someone even when you've got nothing to gain. That's a lot of lessons. 3 years is a long time. Eleanor pulled her daughter close. But the most important lesson, the one that matters more than all the others. What? That it's never too late to start over. Never too late to be happy. Never too late to trust again. That night, Eleanor found Jed on the porch. Their porch now. Their home. What are you looking at? The stars. Same ones I looked at the night you came. The night everything changed. Do you ever regret it? Opening that door? Jed turned to her. This woman who'd given him back his life. His purpose. His heart. Not for 1 second. Not for one breath. Even when it was hard. Even when people were trying to kill us. Even then. He pulled her close. You know what I was before you came, a ghost. Walking through days like they didn't matter. Waiting to die because I'd forgotten how to live. And now I'm alive. Really alive. For the first time since Clara died. For the first time in years. He kissed her forehead. You did that. You and Lucy and Grace. You brought me back. You brought us back too. We were running for our lives and you gave us a life worth running to. They stood together as the stars wheeled overhead, as their children slept safe inside, as the night wrapped around them like a blessing. I love you, Eleanor Callahan. I love you, Jedediah Callahan. Forever. Forever. The word hung in the air, a promise, a covenant, a truth that no one could take away. They'd walked through fire, both of them, lost everything they'd loved, found each other in the ashes, and built something new, something strong, something that would last. Not because life was easy, it wasn't. Not because pain was gone, it wasn't. But because they'd learned the hardest lesson of all, that love isn't the absence of fear. It's the choice to keep going anyway. The choice to trust. The choice to believe that tomorrow can be better than today. Inside the cabin, Lucy was singing Grace to Sleep, an old lullaby their grandmother used to sing, sweet and soft and full of hope. James stirred in his crib, made a small sound, settled back to sleep. The fire crackled, the wind whispered. The world went on. And on that porch in that moment, two people who'd lost everything stood holding everything that mattered. That's the thing about broken hearts. They don't just heal. They grow back stronger. They grow back bigger. They learn to hold more love than they ever thought possible. And sometimes, if you're brave enough, if you're stubborn enough, if you refuse to let the darkness win, those broken hearts find each other, and they build something beautiful from the pieces, something that lasts, something that matters, something called home.